Some people survive their circumstances, others are shaped by them. Every once in a while, you meet someone who's truly forged by them, quietly, painfully, and completely, until one unexpected moment lets the light in. Today's episode is one of those stories.
It means that you were born with a hole in your back, which exposes your spine.
Bailey was born into a body that required fighting from day one. Spina bifida, a VP shunt keeping her alive, medical interventions before she even had the words to understand them. And top of the physical came the invisible, bullying, abandonment, anxiety, grief, and a kind of isolation that the world mostly looks right past.
I felt like such an inconvenience.
Then in August of 2023, something shifted. It wasn't a cure, it wasn't a miracle in the traditional sense, but a voice.
We all enjoyed the magic of music.
A group, a story. A man named Cesar De La Rosa, who had no idea he was part of someone's survival.
I struggled to find true happiness. And the day that I found that man,
it means a lot, number one. Number two, it's a responsibility I do take seriously because I know how those things feel, the power that comes with that.
You soon learned that Cesar is a founding member of the acclaimed vocal group Voice Play and a co-creator of Flying Lessons. He didn't know Bailey, but the songs he put into the universe found her, and exactly at the right moment.
And the sass from this man. That was pretty much it. I just went down a rabbit hole.
This is a conversation about what it means to hold on, about what happens when an unexpected North Star appears and lights a new path, a path that you weren't even sure you had the heart to follow.
See, that's the thing. In no shape or form was I absolutely mentally prepared to take on other people's problems.
Hi, it's Tony Chapman. Thank you for listening to Chatter That Matters, presented by RBC. If you can, please subscribe to the podcast, and ratings and reviews, well, they're always welcome and they're always appreciated.
Bailey, welcome to Chatter That Matters.
Thank you.
I sort of set up your early years, but for my audience, and we certainly don't have the time it would take to talk about all the realities of your physical health, but you certainly wouldn't be framed as somebody that was born in good health.
Not really, no.
When did you start to realize that the cards you were dealt with were going to be cards that wouldn't let you lead what many people would call a normal life?
I think I started realizing that when I was, when I got into my double digits, watching my peers, how they interacted with other people, and just noticing how different it was from how I was able to do things, day-to-day things. It was so different. And just life in general was so different for me.
What you were born with, spina bifida, is something that today they can cure even in the womb. But your reality is what started as even being challenged to walk eventually put you in a wheelchair.
Today they can cure it before the fetus is born, which is amazing. I did not have that luck. What a lot of people don't know is I have the most severe form of spina bifida. All spina bifida really is, it means that you were born with a hole in your back, which exposes your spine. So the spine didn't form properly, which leaves you paralyzed. Now, depending on how far up or low down the hole is in your back, depends on where you're paralyzed. So the higher up you'll be paralyzed. So there are people with spina bifida who are paralyzed from the neck down. I'm very fortunate because, like I said, I have the most severe type of spina bifida. Doctors still aren't sure why I can walk, why I have feeling in my feet.
When you're at double digit, age 10 or 11, you also not only realize that things are different for you, but people are treating you different. Isolation and anxiety. And one of these stories I read around a water fountain where a young boy suffering his own physical, he had cancer, but absolutely lashes into you. Everybody around you that you turn to for some sense of help, some kind of support, including the elders, including the people that are in charge of the school, dismiss or ignore. Don't hold how you're feeling in the regard it should be held. How did that feel? I mean, that has to be mentally as challenging for a young person to deal with as your physical ailments.
So along with the physical side of spina bifida, there is a cognitive and developmental delay as well. At a lot of times, I'm not able to process, normal emotions or whatever. Like it was very hard. I didn't really understand why no one was coming to help me and why nobody wanted to do anything about it. Like you said, he was a little boy. He was much younger than me, who was dealt a horrible,
Prognosis.
illness,
I mean, he's got
prognosis. Yeah. He was probably looking for an outlet to take his own frustrations and his own, feelings about it on. And I just happened to be that punching bag or that whatever, because he might not have understood at his young age. And I understand that now, almost 20 years later. As
When did you start using a wheelchair?
far as I can remember, from like age 6, I had always used a wheelchair. It changes throughout the years depending on how I feel and the day. And some days I'll do really good and I won't need a wheelchair. Some days will be days where I need a wheelchair because I'll be really tired or I'm not feeling well or whatever. There was a really long period of time where I didn't need the wheelchair at all. I went through all of elementary school without needing a wheelchair at all. And then as I got older, my body is like, sit down, don't get up ever. But recently, actually within the last year, and it's partly thanks to Cesar, I have gone to the gym for the first time, which I have never thought I would do in my life. I never thought I would see myself in a gym ever. I had lost 50 pounds and I have been able to use a treadmill for the first time. And I have started walking again.
What I never understood is why they don't have wheelchairs with a hydraulic lift at your eye level to everybody. Open people's eyes because you see the world from both points of view, and maybe share that with the listeners so that we might have a little bit more appreciation for what life is like for those that are partially imprisoned in something that has to move them around.
People look at me like they've never seen they've never seen a wheelchair before. Like it's some foreign alien thing, which boggles my mind. But then some people have the nerve and the audacity to come up to me. Why are you in a wheelchair? Or like, what's your problem? Ask me all these like invasive questions or like trying to find out why I'm in a wheelchair. Like, was it an accident?
Society seems to be like almost, they talk about moths being attracted to a flame. And I would say that people want to be with like-minded people. Did you find because you had these physical ailments that it impacted your friendships growing up? It impacted how you felt like you belonged going through puberty, where everybody else is getting giggly about as their hormones are flowing? I mean, was all of that denied to you because of the cards you were dealt?
Yes, in a way. I didn't really have a core group of friends. No one ever really called me on the phone and to chat, or no one ever called to check up on me just to see how I was doing, or no one ever called to invite me out, or whatever. But even like the odd person who did, I felt like such an inconvenience because I was in a core group with like 5 or 6 able-bodied people. And every time they came down to see me, because they always had to travel to come and see me, everything we did had to be wheelchair accessible, planned, to the nines. Like you could see like the stress in their faces sometimes. I had my first sleepover a few years ago. Even planning that was so much of a hassle.
We talked earlier as we were thinking about this interview, and what I didn't realize is the mental toll it took on you, that you're in and out of the hospital so many different times, but often those times were for psychiatric reasons, that you really went into some deep depression, even at times contemplated, is life really worth it?
Yeah.
How does someone like you get up in the morning and go, there's something out there that's worth me getting out of bed for?
It took a very long time. I struggled to find true happiness. And I'll tell you something that I've never told anybody. Since I was a little girl, I have prayed every day. And I tell myself, one day I will find true, genuine happiness.
When you found yourself in these psychiatric wards, You felt yourself taking on the role sometimes as I'm going to listen to your pain. I'm going to be there for you. For you to say, I have enough capacity after all I'm having to deal with, that I'm willing to take all of this on, knowing that there's consequences. When you listen to people's problems and you listen to people's issues, it's not like they bounce off you. They become part of you.
See, that's the thing. In no shape or form was I absolutely mentally prepared or ready in any shape or form to take on other people's problems. But I did, because I cannot stand seeing other people in such mental anguish. And I don't want other people to feel the way that I felt about myself, to be in a position where they feel such mental anguish and they feel such self-hatred and they feel like they have nothing to offer this world, and they put themselves in front of traffic. I don't want anyone to feel lonely, as people are out there and people will listen and people will care. I thought that nobody cared about me.
Were you being you, hoping you would come along in your life? Does that make sense? Like, was it?
Absolutely. I was being me, hoping, like you said, that a me would come along to help me.
You've got so many things to say about me, but listen up, I've got some things to say.
When we return, Bailey and I talk about her love for music and the arts, and then how a shining North Star suddenly appeared to light her way. We'll meet the star himself, and then a couple of weeks later, they'll meet for the first time in person. All because of Chatter That Matters.
Tony, I am not wearing my hearing aids. Did you say what I think you said?
Yes, I did.
I'm reading the captions, so don't mess with me, Tony.
Hi, it's Tony Chapman. I want you to close your eyes for a second and think about the first time that music moved you. It might have been this song you played on repeat until you tested the patience of everyone around you. And think about how many times music has come to your rescue since. It might have carried you through a breakup when words fell short and silence felt too loud. It pushes you through the last stretch of a 10K when your legs are burning. It gives you permission to dance like no one is watching. And when you're alone, it becomes your companion. It creates space for reflection and inspiration and validation. Music takes you back to who you are at your core, but at the same time, it carries you towards who you're becoming. That is why music matters. And that is why supporting our young artists matter even more. And that's where RBC steps in. Through RBC First Up, RBC supports emerging Canadian artists with mentorship and development and real opportunities to perfect their craft and to sing for their supper. And if you live in Toronto or find yourself visiting this summer, you have to experience music on a whole new level at the RBC Amphitheatre. It's located on the waterfront, and it's designed to create immersive live experiences that bring artists and fans together in powerful, unforgettable moments. It all comes down to belief in artists, belief in shared experiences, and belief that culture is worth investing in. Music matters to you, and music matters to me, and music matters to RBC.
I struggled to find true happiness, and I'll tell you something that I've never told anybody. Since I was a little girl, I have prayed every day, and I tell myself, one day I will find true, genuine happiness. And the day that I found that man.
Today, my special guest is Bailey G, who spent too much time in hospitals, but nothing can ever take away her smile nor her approach to life. Music has always been one of your places where you could escape. Music and drawing and art, where you could sort of, the same way you always prayed for happiness, you could escape into a song. But there was one day when you're on YouTube. Explain what happened and how this became much more than one of the 4 billion songs on YouTube, but how this suddenly became this North Star that jumped off the silver screen and grabbed you.
I was just searching shorts of sea shanties because I love sea shanties. Something came up that has absolutely nothing to do with sea shanties. It was an a cappella group called Voice Play, which at the time I had never heard of. And it was a song called 500 Miles.
When I wake up, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who wakes up next to you. When I go out,
This man on the screen, first of all, he has like the fluffiest, like poopiest, fluffiest hair and beard, and he's just so adorable. So I was like, okay, I'm sold. Let's watch. And the sass from this man. I didn't think anybody could ever outsass me, and I was a little offended. But I didn't know who he was at the time, and he knows how to eat the camera and perform. I don't know who this man is, but I need to give him a hug. That was pretty much it. I just went down a rabbit hole. That's basically how I became a fan.
And you went from watching this band to realizing he had his own music out.
Yes. He is like the most insanely talented person. He had his own solo album, which is from 2010. But still, it's amazing, and you should go download it and buy it because it's amazing. It's called Cesar the Album, and you should go check it out because his voice is angelic and beautiful.
Let's bring Cesar onto the show. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about where Cesar's from and how music became your calling card?
Hi, Tony. Hi, KB. And hi, everybody listening. So my name is Cesar De La Rosa. I am currently known as the resident baritone for voice play. And as how KB Bailey has so beautifully mentioned, I've been a recording artist. I've had so many hats. I had a recording album many years ago. And I also, right now, I'm a Patreon creator of a group called Love Loudly. If we were to zoom back 35 years, I was born in Puerto Rico, big, very musical family. We all lived together, basically in what I call a family compound. So for the first 8 years of my life, I lived in Puerto Rico learning English, but my first language was music. My family members loved to sing, especially in church when we were all together. My aunts with microphones would sing with my mom in 3-part harmonies. My uncles would play all the instruments. And, anytime there was a new year or a birthday or Thanksgiving, anything worth celebrating, especially during Christmas time, we would all get together and sing as loud as we could. It felt like our voices were like, or my parents' voices at the time, my mom and my aunts and uncles were just like covering the mountains of Puerto Rico. Then my father, mother, brother, older brother, and I moved to the States, and I've been in Florida ever since. I knew I've always wanted to do music, just because I loved those first experiences. As Bailey mentioned, there's such a power to music, and I was pulled just the same, and I loved it. Ended up in choir in 3rd grade, and from then on out, I did everything I could to spend as much time as possible with music, especially singing, because I loved it. And
how much do you miss the whole Puerto Rico? Have you ever found it again where you just had this incredible sense of community coming together with song and family?
I crave it. I missed it. Every time I talk to anybody who's from Puerto Rico or anybody who just talks to me about Puerto Rico, we always say like, hey, when's the last time you've been back? And I haven't been back since 2 Thanksgivings ago, and it breaks my heart a little bit. I have sent my mother in my stead, and she comes back with reports of how beautiful and green and lovely and musical everything is. To be honest with you, Tony, I would have loved to have been bilocal at this point, meaning like I would spend half my time here in the States and half my time in Puerto Rico, like building the same rapport and deepening the creative roots there as I did here in Florida. But it hasn't happened yet, but it will at some point, because as you can imagine, Puerto Rico is magical.
Bailey, she's smiling like I'm 6 years old and I still believe in Santa Claus. An audience has to be incredibly inspiring for you when you see people's eyes shine, their hearts beat, standing ovations and applause. But this one's different. Your music and your persona shone a light in a very dark corridors that were happening at the time. And Bailey responded to that light. I mean, she talked about it. She's at the gym now. She's fighting her illness. She's looking at ways to embrace life. Does that change your perspective? Does that make you feel more responsible as an artist, more rewarded as an artist?
I do treat it very seriously, because at the end of the day, we are human. And before we stepped into these roles or followed these like purposes that allowed us to that allowed me, for example, to shine in the way that I shine, in the way that feels, I guess, limitless for me. And that's how I feel when I perform and when I sing. We all enjoyed the magic of music. Like I said, music was my first language. I was also the starry-eyed, kid just enjoying. That's how I felt when I heard music for the first time. So to see Bailey feel that particular way, and to see her joy come out and being, sent right back to me, it means a lot. Number one. Number two, it's a responsibility I do take seriously, because I know how those things feel, the power that comes with that. It's unlimited energy source, because, I get to provide it to Bailey, or I guess with the music that I'm part of, or that I make, Bailey responds, and in kind, not only she feels energized, but sends that gratitude back to me. And it's like a never ending well.
So Bailey, what happened if Cesar turned out to be a dud? I mean, you loved his music, you loved his sassiness, but when you had a connection, and so far it's just been on a silver screen, it didn't disappoint you. If anything, it confirmed that he had this angelic quality to him.
Yes, Caesar's a fantastically talented musician and all that, but what really I'm not even attracted, but like what really just drew me to Cesar is his personality, his love of humanity, and the way he sees humanity and as a whole, and just how he sees everybody so beautifully. And that's what the world needs. The world needs more Caesars.
But how about if the world needs more Baileys too? Like, Bailey, the interesting thing about you, and we had a long talk about this in the past, and you're so easy to dismiss your value. It's almost like you're back to that. I'm such a pain at sleepovers. If I went out with friends, they had to make everything accessible. And I find you incredibly inspiring back at the gym, and you're making the best of things, and you're opening people's eyes to the fact that you are a human being, I think is magical as well. Now, when you guys connect with each other, old friends will talk about the hill you grew up in. They'll have context and circumstances. Your relationship to date is being listening to his music and occasionally having this sort of online relationship. Where do you find common bonds?
I feel like all I talk about is, oh my God, I love you. I feel like I'm such an annoying fangirl.
KB really does take the time outside of obviously having the natural response that we all have, with people like this. But she really does take the time in a grounding, affirming way to articulate the importance of what my music has done, or just affirming, like, trying to make me feel special as well, which is wonderful. I send that right back to her. There are times, and you've caught that very well, Tony, where, she might dismiss herself. And I know she might have done that as either through text sometimes, or through our Zooms. But I'm like, please don't talk about my friend that way. I shan't accept it. It's hard when we're inside the fishbowl of our own reality, how special we are. And it takes people outside of that to remind each other what we fail to see in ourselves. And 9 times out of 10 is how special and meaningful we are to the world, and to ourselves and the rest of the world. I really also do appreciate KB in just the way that she expresses herself in a Discord that I have. I have a Discord under my Patreon, and there's a lot of people who follow me through Love Loudly there, and she's just a light, a ray of sunshine, and so many people there as well. And she is very special and so significant.
If you were writing a letter to each other that you only discovered years later, what would you say in that letter, saying, what you did for me was? How would you answer that sentence?
You have given me my life back, and you have given me true, authentic happiness, which I never thought I would find.
KB, you have made me feel very seen. You have made me feel someone of value. You have made me, felt very connected to this world. With your superpower, you have made me feel like I have superpowers of my own too.
And you two have never met in real life, but you're like old new friends. That's what fascinated me the most about the story. And I always end with my takeaways. And, Bailey, and I don't blame you for feeling you're a burden. I really don't. I don't blame you for feeling you're a nuisance to people, because that's how you've seen the world. But I want to challenge it, because I think the Bailey that comes to life in the psychiatric wards and saying, look, that doctor didn't really listen to you, but I will. That person that realizes 20 years later that boy really wasn't being mean. He was just he was just venting, is a really special human quality. And one I'm surprised you have for everything that's dealt to you. And that's your magic superpower. And Cesar, as talented as you are, and I've watched some of your videos and your musicality, the way you describe your stories of growing up, I think your superpower is you're a human being the way whoever invented this world wanted human beings to be. You're kind, you're caring, you're not a narcissist,
Yes.
you're fun, you're special, you're playful, and you're talented, but you're willing to put all of that aside and just listen to what someone else has to say and care about them versus what a lot of people that are your capability and celebrity would just is always looking around saying, is there somebody in the room that I'd be better off speaking to? And the third thing I want to say to both of you is you've got to meet in person. And I would love, at my expense, Cesar, fly up and spend a couple of days with Bailey. I would love if you'd stay at our house, put these two beautiful spirits together.
Tony, I am not wearing my hearing aids. Did you say what I think you said?
Yes, I did.
I'm reading the captions, so don't mess with me, Tony.
I did. I'm going to want you to get together. And
Tony, thank you.
I think when you get past the celebrity, you're both magical human beings, and I'm better for talking to you both. Thank you both for being part of Chat That Matters.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Bailey.
All right.
And thanks to everyone listening.
Joining me now is Joel Dembe. He's the Senior Manager, Distribution Strategy and Communications, RBC Direct Investing, and a Paralympian keynote speaker. Joel, welcome to Chat That Matters.
Well, thanks for having me again. Great to be here.
What I've never really done justice to, and I don't know if the word justice is right, but just what you've done as an individual with disability. From what I understand, a benign spinal tumor that was removed at birth caused partial paralysis. But by age of 7, you're in a wheelchair, but sports is what you love doing. You did everything from sledge hockey, baseball, golf, and then you fall in love with tennis and you absolutely crush the sport, become Canada's top ranked wheelchair tennis player, over 30 international titles you've won. And in 2012, you represent Canada at London Paralympics. I think it's important for the audience to understand that you are a very gifted athlete. I'm curious, where did it come from?
I think it came from a desire to be seen, quite frankly. I mean, when most people think of disability, they naturally think of illness, tragedy, or, let's be honest, some sob story. And I think when you're an athlete with a disability, it sort of changes the narrative. In my head, I think when others would see me on the tennis court, they'd more see me for my athletic prowess than the wheelchair itself. And it really allowed me to channel these feelings of feeling less than and into something entirely different. And I think it also came from this desire or this need to channel my frustration at life, my anger. Let's be honest, how nice is it to smack a ball around the tennis court or smash a serve when you have all this anger building up from repeated hospital visits and the frustration of getting around in a wheelchair sometimes? And I'll be honest, it was an entirely self-serving endeavor.
What advice do you, when you're out speaking around the world, do you share with those people that are new to a disability, that they weren't born with it, but suddenly their life changes dramatically?
My advice is a little bit different than most, and it comes from, quite honestly, experience. And the first thing I tap into is being confident, being assertive, taking control of the situation, because when you have a disability, there's so many things you can't control, whether it's the barriers to, just getting around, transportation, attitudes. And I think when you're given advice, it's often from the medical side of things, from the doctor's point of view. And that perspective is always to sort of be patient. But I'm not patient. And I always tell folks who have disabilities is to really go after it. Be assertive, use your voice, because sometimes we're made to feel invisible when you have a disability. And I think the people who do use their voice, who do take control.
What do we need to do as a society to not look at somebody with a disability the way you refuse to be looked at, and to realize that we're all human beings, that would be a much better world if it was accessible to everyone?
We really need to normalize disability. In so many ways, if you're just someone who wants to carry on life like everyone else, we really should normalize that. And we shouldn't preclude someone who has a disability from taking part in all aspects of life, whether it's, joining the corporate workforce or quite literally playing sport. And I often take the words of, David Onley, who, sadly passed away and was a strong personal mentor for me. He thinks he thought we weren't even close to getting there when it came to, accessibility for everyone, for example. But we have to know the line keeps moving. I mean, whether you're a CEO, politician, activist, or employee, accessibility needs to be talked about more and more by every leader. It's going to become one of the most singular main issues we have here in North America with our aging population requiring accessible housing, transportation, personal support workers. All of these things are going to be central to our economy. And frankly, it feels like I'm one of the few people, but obviously few people who have a disability that keep talking to this, and it can't be ignored. And so while I am excited for federal and provincial legislation on accessibility, we really need to go further. It needs to be taken on by every leader. All of us have to get involved in this massive issue, and it needs to be addressed before we do anything, quite frankly, Tony.
Joel, I've heard you speak not only on my podcast, but live. You're engaging, you're enlightening, you're powerful. I want more people to hear your words. What is the best way for anybody in my audience who says, I would love to have you come and speak at a conference or an event? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
There's a few ways. I love LinkedIn just like you do, Tony, and you can find me on LinkedIn. You can just literally search me out on LinkedIn. I'm also on Twitter at Joel Dembe, all lowercase. And I'd love to talk about accessibility because I also think there's a huge economic opportunity involved in addressing that barrier. And I do think there's a lot of people sitting on the sidelines right now, people that I know, Tony, who would love to get involved and help solve this issue, because I do think once we solve this accessibility barrier, which I know will continue to move as we create new digital and amazing technologies, that it is going to provide some amazing opportunities for all Canadians.
Joel Dembe, I think we lost a very special person. He was a friend of mine as well. I think he's passed the torch to you, and carry it high and carry it well, because what you're doing is extraordinary work. Thanks for joining me on Chat That Matters.
Thanks, Tony, and thanks for having me on again.
Once again, a special thanks to RBC for supporting Chat That Matters. It's Tony Chapman. Thanks for listening, and let's chat soon.